Greetings. Uh, First of all, I'd like to apologize if this video seems a bit rushed. Uh, that's because it is. The original plan was to record and upload this last night, but we had a thunderstorm roll in, and rather than risk losing power in the middle of a recording, I erred on the side of caution and just shut everything down for the evening. And here we are. This episode is going to be good news, bad news, I guess you could call it. Seems like we don't get good news anymore unless it comes with at least a little bit of bad news. So I'm just going to touch on a few of the story's topics that that fit that bill, and I'd like to kick things off with good news that is actually great news. Julian Assange is finally out of captivity at Belmarsh. Um, by now, he should be back in Australia and never should have been kidnapped and imprisoned to begin with. So the fact that he's free now is most excellent news. However, in order to stop the imprisonment and torture and extradition, which would have meant more imprisonment and torture, he had to accept a plea deal for something that is complete and utter bullshit. Uh, Something about conspiring to release military secrets or what the fuck ever. Are you kidding me? That's what journalism does. Journalism is not a crime, I guess, unless it embarrasses the United States of America. Then it's a crime. Then they'll throw your ass in prison and threaten to keep you there for the rest of your life or even execute you. So, yeah, yay for democracy, I guess. But if there's any justice, he'll be pardoned or have that overturned or whatever. But the only crime of which he's actually guilty is journalism. And so now I guess the USA can censor and literally imprison people for doing journalism, not only domestically, they can reach out all over the world and do this to people that have exposed their war crimes and their corruption. Kind of a red flag. At least that's my take on it. So next on the list, we've got Jamal Bowman, the alleged squad member, quote unquote progressive congressman, lost his primary. And as far as I'm concerned, good riddance. He's been a sellout, just like the rest of the squad and the so-called progressives. And he's actually verifiably, demonstrably guilty of interfering with an official congressional proceeding by pulling that fire alarm during it was a floor vote or something. That's the same statute they went after the January 6th people with. And Bowman is on video actually doing the thing. It should have been an open and shut case. He should be in prison along with the January 6th folks. But no. He got basically, what, a reprimand or something. It was absolutely ridiculous. It, but the point is, he deserved to lose. Absolutely. Don't miss him one bit. The bad news, however, is that the person who won the primary did so with a lot of APAC money backing him up. He's a known corporate establishment stooge, so didn't actually gain anything there. Just got rid of somebody who didn't deserve to be there in the first place. But neither does the next guy, so whatever. Uh, that's the Democrats for you. And next, we got the presidential election, because of course, tonight is the debate. Can't not mention the presidential election on the day of the debate. I consider this good news that Genocide Joe is on pace to lose in November, to not be reelected, to be rejected by the electorate. I consider that good news because because everything he's done since being installed in the White House. And the only one you really need to mention is Gaza. The way he has enabled, and I would say encouraged, the genocide. Fuck that guy. Get rid of him. Absolutely. I don't know how that's even a question in anyone's mind. And leaving out all of the obvious signs of his rapid mental acuity, shall we say, just all of that aside, the things he's done or promised to do and then didn't are disqualifying. I'll be glad to see him go. I didn't want him in there to begin with. Now, the bad news is that the USA is still stuck in Democrat versus Republican, red versus blue, liberal versus conservative, which means if Joe loses, the likelihood is high, shall we say, damn near certainty, that the winner is going to be Donald Trump, who is, in my expectation, not going to be any better than Joe on the Gaza situation. He is not going to stop the genocide. He's not going to bring peace to the Middle East. He's not going to pressure Israel to back off of its apparent plans to start a broader war in the region with Hezbollah and Iran and whoever. If anything, he's likely to pour gas on that fire. I mean, he is the guy who moved the embassy to Jerusalem and all that. He has already made statements that seem to indicate that he would be to the right of Biden on the Israel question. So that is the definition of bad news. But as long as we're stuck, as long as we're mired in this duopoly hellscape, what can you do? People just need to wake up and transcend the duopoly. I know I've said that 100 times, probably going to say it 1,000 more. But that's what we need to do. We need to just stop voting for Republicans and Democrats. Period. Please. And finally, we've got the Supreme Court, and this isn't a win broadly speaking. This is more just a win for the Biden regime and future office holders, future executive office holders. They won the right to continue strong arming social media companies into censoring people under the pretext of fighting misinformation or whatever they're calling it this week. But it's just censorship. It is protecting their narratives. That's all it is. 100%. They're not protecting anything. They're not promoting anything. They're just stepping on the necks of people who aren't or who refuse to carry their water, to regurgitate their narratives. And that wouldn't be quite so alarming, except the people they censor and have thrown off of platforms for asking certain questions or saying certain things usually end up being right. Eventually, when even the corporate media has to admit that, say, the Hunter Biden laptop is real, didn't start out that way. Started out, what was that? Having all the earmarks of a Russian disinformation operation. They wouldn't let people even post the link to the article that was covering the Hunter Biden laptop. They pretended that it was just a psyop, that it was just propaganda. But no, actually, eventually, they had to admit it's 100% real. They're doing the same things now, just about different stories. They've been covering Israel's ass for this entire genocide. From refusing to say the G word to letting Israel investigate itself when there are credible reports of war crimes like, oh, I don't know, killing a bunch of aid workers, bombing refugee centers and hospitals and civilian homes. They pretend that Israel's doing everything it can to minimize civilian casualties as the numbers mount by the thousands and tens of thousands. And anybody who seriously goes against that narrative, who refuses to condemn Hamas, and as if anyone needed to, as if anyone who doesn't already know that history didn't begin on October 7th. But they're still doing it. And now, thanks to the Supreme Court, they've got the green light to double down and do it even harder. So, a win for authoritarianism, a win for censorship, a win for the stranglehold that the executive office has on what we'll have to laughingly call now free speech, because obviously there is no such thing in the US of A. Not today. You can't do journalism. You can't express an opinion. You can't point out facts that the establishment doesn't like. So, a win for the Biden regime, and the presidents to come, because now we've established that precedent. And it's bad news for literally everybody else. Everyone else loses. So, sorry to end that on a bummer, but this is already late enough. I kind of want to go ahead and get it uploaded. So that's that. So have a good one. Catch you next time.